Okay, this topic focuses on circles. So we're looking at algebraic representation of circles, and the transformations we use with parent graphs still apply even when we have something that's not a regular function. So, first of all, understanding where circles come from. So basic equation for a circle, which has its center at 0, 0, is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. My center was 0, 0, my radius was r. Now, the reason why this worked comes straight from the Pythagorean theorem. If I went out the x direction and the y direction on a right triangle, because circle is a set of all points which are equidistant from the center point, that's what the radius is, then I'm going to move in a certain direction, x. So I'll do x squared plus y squared. I got a right triangle here, is equal to r squared. Straight Pythagorean theorem. That's why the equation works. Now, what happens when we shift the graph left or right, or up or down, left and right is x direction. Up and down is y direction. But they both have squares. So they're both going to be using a function as part of it. So any shifts we do are going to be in parentheses. And things in parentheses work opposite. So here's my general form. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. We use minus because it behaves opposite. Again, we're trying to locate where is 0, 0. So what can I plug in to this equation to get 0 in each of the squares? Well, if x equaled h, y equaled k, that would cause this to be 0 squared plus 0 squared. And that's why my center is hk, and of course my radius is still r. Okay, so let's apply this. So first I'm going to try to find the equation of this circle. Well, it may not be obvious where the center is, but it's easy to find. Look for your highest point, lowest point, and draw the diameter of the circle across it. Go to the one that's most left, one most right, draw a line across. There's your other diameter. Where these two lines cross, that's my center. So my center is at 3, negative 2. So when I put my equation together, I'm going to have x minus 3 squared, y plus 2 squared, and then I want to get my radius. Well, my radius is 1, 2, 3, 4. My radius is 4. So radius is 4. It's going to be 4 squared, which equals 16. So it should be nice and straightforward. Look at the equation, easily be able to draw an equation, our problem. Don't be lazy. Watch your parentheses. If you don't put the parentheses here, it is not the same thing. So make sure you write it out correctly. If you wrote x minus 3 squared, that's not the same thing as in parentheses x minus 3 squared. This is not correct. So make sure you do write it correctly. Okay, a little more challenging is getting the equation of a circle when it's written in standard form. So we do this by completing the square. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 2x plus 8y equals 3. Sometimes you'll see it minus 3 equals 0. It depends on who wrote the equation, but this is pretty much a standard form. So you'll see these things completed this way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rearrange our terms so our x's are all together, our y's together, and any constants we have are make sure we move it to the opposite side of the equation. The 3 was already there, and I'm going to leave a little space here so I can complete the square. Now the rule for completing the square, we take half of this number here, we divide it, we basically take the number, we divide it by 2, and then we square it. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Squared, I add 1. Well, if I add 1 to this side, I add 1 to the other side. Take half of 8. That's 4. And then I square it. I add 16. I add 16 to the left side. I got to add 16 to the right side. Now, when I go to write my equation, it's going to be x minus half this term. Well, it's going to be x, and then whatever half the value is, the number in front of the x. So it's x minus 1 squared. Half of 8 is 4. So I did y plus 4 squared. And then I add these numbers together. I get 20. My radius squared is equal to 20. So I take the square root of 20, and I get roughly about 4.5. So 4.47. So my center is at 1, negative 4. Radius is the square root of 20, which equals roughly about 4.47 or 4.5. So now I'm going to graph it. So I take my circle, I start with the center, which is 1, negative 4. Then I'm going to move in 4 directions. I'm going to go up 4.5, put a dot. I will move to the right 4.5, put a dot. And I will move down 4.5, put a dot. And I move left 4.5, and I put a dot. And I just draw my circle around the figure. And that's how you draw a circle. So actually not too bad as long as you know how to go about completing the square.